So we've got some movement in the WNBA offseason, namely from a strange trade by the Chicago Sky. I'm not going to sit here and call it the worst trade I've ever seen or disaster or anything until I see the subsequent moves, but very odd. The Sky trade some later draft picks to the Tempo and the Fire to ensure that their players are protected, meaning the Tempo and the Fire won't take any of their players in the expansion draft. But the thing is, did the Sky have a roster full of players those two teams wanted to take in the first place? It was a roster that
silence, and now the entire WNBA is reeling from the sudden fallout. The Chicago Sky just pulled a move so bizarre that it has the league's biggest stars, including Caitlin Clark, looking over their shoulders in pure confusion. They didn't just swap players, they essentially paid a ransom to keep a roster that finished dead last in the standings. It's a move that defies every logic of professional sports and creates a ripple effect that could ruin the competitive balance of the entire 2025 season. The front office is playing a dangerous game, and the consequences are starting to leak out. This isn't just a minor transaction, it's a structural disaster waiting to happen.
But the thing is, did the Sky have a roster full of players those two teams wanted to take in the first place? It was a roster that had the worst record in the WNBA last season. So, stand pat, good job. You're keeping that team intact. That's my first reaction when I see it, because it did just catch me off guard a little bit. Here are the exact details as posted by their own account. The Sky received the 2026 round 2 pick 21. In turn, Portland gets pick 17. So for that swap of 4 places in the draft,
here is the deal that has everyone scratching their heads and wondering if the Sky have completely lost the plot. They traded away future draft assets to the new expansion teams, the Portland Fire and the Golden State Tempo, for one specific reason: to ensure that neither team takes a single player from their current roster. Think about that for a second. You're giving up valuable picks to protect a group of players that couldn't even claw their way out of the bottom of the league last year. It's like putting a high-tech security system on a house that's already burning down. The rest of the league is watching this and asking, what does Chicago know that we don't? Or are they just desperate?
Differential was actually worse, though the Sun had slightly worse point differential than the Sky. And then you go to the roster itself and you say, all right, who are these players that they're protecting? I mean, I'm imagining they protect Cardoso being on a rookie deal and that they drafted her. You obviously imagine they protect Angel Reese. They just made the trade for Atkins, so I guess they protect her. But I mean, I look at that roster and I don't go, there's a whole bunch of players that you definitely need to protect on that roster. They made the trade for Van Lith, which wound up being Van Lith in the draft last year. So maybe the logic is
this creates an unbelievable problem for the WNBA because it signals a total breakdown in how teams are supposed to build through expansion. For someone like Caitlin Clark, who is the focal point of the league's growth, seeing an organization like the Sky sabotage their own future is a nightmare. If teams at the bottom aren't trying to get better through the draft, the league becomes top-heavy and stagnant. The Sky received the 2026 second-round pick, number 21, but in return, they gave Portland pick 17. They swapped 4 spots backward just to protect players who arguably wouldn't even be starters on a championship-caliber team. It is a massive gamble.
Factor, right? Like Angel Reese said what she said about the Sky last year. And it's not exactly like she was wrong, right? Like, she wasn't wrong to say that the Sky are a crappy organization. I mean, she didn't say that directly, but that's, everybody kind of knows that the Sky are a crappy organization. But she did sort of throw her teammates under the bus in the process, which I didn't think was cool. I mean, I think there's a way to deliver the message without doing that. And Courtney Vandersloot was obviously hurt by that, who's a veteran of the league. How much did that hurt Reese's?
You look at the Chicago roster, the confusion only grows deeper. You have to ask yourself, who are these untouchable players, actually? Sure, you protect Camila Cardoso because she's a rookie powerhouse, and you obviously protect Angel Reese because she's the face of the brand. But beyond that, the roster was tied for the worst record in the league last season. Their point differential was a total disaster, even worse than some of the other struggling teams. By protecting everyone, the Sky are essentially saying they are happy with being at the bottom. They are choosing to keep a losing core intact rather than letting expansion teams take the dead weight off their books.
That is another thing to consider with the Sky offseason. I mean, I did say they put together some theme nights. Well, this is their trade again. They put together some theme nights this year, and there's no Barbie night as one of them, which is one of the things that fans noticed when they've had Barbie nights, I think, the last 2 years, and obviously that being a tie-in with Angel Reese. And then there's, the idea also that the Sky are definitely not incentivized to tank. Like, you go into this next year's draft, right? And if you're thinking about the 2027
strategy here is almost impossible to find, and it leaves the door wide open for speculation about internal panic. Maybe the Sky front office is terrified of losing someone they recently traded for, like Haley Van Lith, but in professional sports, you have to avoid the sunk cost fallacy. You can't keep a player just because you gave up assets for them in the past. You have to evaluate what they are bringing to the court right now. If the Sky are protecting players just to save face, they are digging a hole that the entire organization might never climb out of. It's a desperate attempt to maintain a status quo that simply isn't working for them.
And if you're thinking about the 2027 WNBA draft, that is a loaded draft, or at least it should be a loaded draft, right? Like, Juju Watkins could be in that draft. Madison Booker could be in that draft. Hannah Hidalgo could be in that draft. Michaela Blakes could be in that draft. A bunch of different players. A much better draft next year than this year on paper. But the Sky don't control their pick because they traded a pick swap to the Washington Mystics.
There's also the massive Angel Reese factor that cannot be ignored in this equation. Last year, Reese made some very pointed comments about the Sky organization, and while she didn't call them crappy directly, that was the message everyone received loud and clear. She was frustrated, and she wasn't exactly wrong about the state of the franchise. However, in the process of venting her frustration, she reportedly threw some of her own teammates under the bus. That kind of locker room friction is toxic, and it leads to serious questions about whether this roster even wants to stay together. Why protect a group of players who might not even be on speaking terms?
Like with Angel Reese and the front office and the organization, because she's the face of the squad. I am also in the camp that Reese and Cardoso, I just don't think is a long-term fit. I think Angel Reese is at her best as a small ball center. To be quite honest, she doesn't really spread the floor, shoot the ball. And she's working on it some, but that's not her game. I think she's at her best when you surround her with shooters and scorers. She can do the dirty work on the boards, and she's not forced into a situation where the defense is daring her to shoot the ball or beat them from the outside or anything like that.
Tension between Reese and the veterans, like Courtney Vandersloot, was visible to anyone paying close attention. Vandersloot is a legend in this league, and seeing that relationship sour was a huge red flag for the future of the Sky. Now, with this expansion trade, the organization is doubling down on a roster that is already fractured. Fans have also noticed something strange on the team's promotional calendar. In previous years, Barbie Night was a massive event tied directly to Angel Reese's persona. This year, it's suspiciously missing from the theme nights. It makes you wonder if the bridge between the star player and the front office has already been burned beyond repair.